I've spent a fair amount of time the last few days looking, and I'm noticing that a lot for 2024, the application deadline has come and gone. Mm-hmm. So now thinking I should be looking at 2025 and getting a good jump on them. And I'm making note of ones that I find that the application date is going to be sometime in the fall. So I'm making a note of those so that I will go back and revisit.
Hey folks, welcome to the Speakers Room Live. This is Evolve Benton, the Speaking for Profit coach, and I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. If you're watching right now, just going to put hashtag live in the comments. If you're watching in the near and dear future or later on, just put hashtag replay. Today is an amazing day, y'all. Number one, I had an opportunity to actually present at the Women in Government Relations Conference, which is taking place in DC. But the way they're doing this event, partially it is virtual, and then they will have a dinner tomorrow. So I had an opportunity to present an amazing healing writing workshop, really around how do we navigate uncertainty in our work. And the people were so amazing in the chat. People shared poems. It was just a really great experience. So I had an opportunity to not only be a coach today, but to actually speak, which was really powerful. So if you've had recent speaking engagements, feel free to go on and share those in the chat. But today's conversation is really important because we have an amazing guest here, Patti, and Patti is going to be actually getting coached by me today to secure Patti's next or first paid speaking opportunity. And the reason this is happening, for folks who don't know, is we have an amazing community called the Speaking for Profit Circle. And within that community, it's on the school platform, which I love. And when folks are engaged in the community, we actually get to see who's on a leaderboard, right? So when you like a post, when you share a post, you get more points. And Patti has been an amazing rock star in that community. So as a gift and an offering, I said, hey, whoever's at the top of the list, we're going to have a one-on-one coaching call. And we're actually going to do this on YouTube so that other folks can get the benefits from that, right? Because sometimes we'll do this in Zoom rooms and in these isolated environments and other folks can't see the magic. So I'm really excited to bring Patti on. I actually met Patti within a TEDx group that I'm a part of. So shouts out to Cesar Cervantes, an amazing coach, an amazing leader within the speaking industry. And I did a training there, and Patti ended up coming to my community and really showing up as a rock star. So that's a little bit about what we're going to cover today. If you all have any questions about your own business that come up as we're going through this, just feel free to put them in the comments. But I'm going to bring Patti to the stage so that we can talk a little bit more about your speaking business and, securing the bag, which is what we're here for. But before we get into the coaching session, Patti, I would love for you to just share with the group who you are and why public speaking. What do you really enjoy about the craft?
Great. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm super psyched. My name is Patti, and I live in British Columbia, Canada. Started my career as a teacher, and it was cut really short. Did a stint at college university level that was short. Wandered through life, trying to find something that lit my fire. Joined Toastmasters, and Paul was tired of hearing me speak all the time, so I figured I must be somewhat good at this.
Yes.
TEDx was on my bucket list, and met Cesar and did a TEDx last October in Ottawa, Canada, Hawkesbury, and watched a training session where I met you on Cesar's training session, and your message, your style, your willingness to share just resonated with me. And so here I am.
Yes, definitely. And you mentioned that you've done a TED Talk. What was that experience like? And will you do another one? Right? Because what Cesar talks about is like, once you do one, you just want to keep going.
Yeah. So it was next to my home. The stage or speaking publicly is my second most comfortable place. And I sit in a chair when I talk, so it's very comfortable. And it made me feel valued and heard, and I could tell by the reaction from the audience that my message was resonating with them, which was really what I wanted, right? I wanted people to hear about my broader definition of moving, and that's what happened. So yay. And the gentleman who organized Hawkesbury, I won't remember his name just because I can't. He's phenomenal. And yes, I'm going to apply for more. Absolutely.
That's great. Yes. Well, I can't wait to hopefully, I can see the next one in person maybe, which would be really cool. I think it's always great to watch them on YouTube, but it's nothing like being in the building and being a part of the experience. So what are your goals, Patti? Like, what are your goals for maybe the next quarter within your speaking business? Because I want to be able to support you getting there. And I know you've done the Signature Talk Mastery course within the circle, and you already have a talk. And I know you've been on LinkedIn and you're in conversations with folks, but I would just love to hear, like, maybe what are one or two goals you have for the next quarter? And then we can kind of work our way backwards and think about strategy and the way to get there.
Sure. So I'm at fork in the road. I'm very passionate about helping new teachers realize that right from the first day they step in the classroom, they have an opportunity to change their students' lives. And so I like getting past the curriculum that they've learned the past year and practicum and everything, and really find their authentic self and voice. So that's one avenue I like. The second one is this whole notion about, when you're any challenge you face, your life is not over. It's just different. So I'm finding it very difficult to find places that I can speak with respect to teacher education. And I don't know what to search for with respect to the other one. My goal is to get one paid speaking gig each month. So
okay.
That's my gig. That's my goal.
Okay, definitely. And you said you have some experience, right? Because you were a teacher as well within that field. Have you been paid to speak within education yet, or in any type of industry?
No, I had my second speaking engagement on the weekend. I spoke at a Rotary conference that was hosted by one of my favorite former students who saw my TED Talk and said, come on over and be our keynote. So I did that, and that was amazing. And then the other one was a Zoom presentation to a college, but unrelated to teaching and learning.
Okay, definitely. So let's kind of backtrack a little bit. When you were going through school to become a teacher, you mentioned that there's like the classroom side of it, and then there's also the practicum. Are there any other required continued educational spaces that teachers have to show up to? Because I think those might be some great places for us to consider.
Yes. And yes, once you sign a contract or get a position, professional development is encouraged, but it's not mandatory, at least not in Canada. I'm not too sure. Each state is so different, and same with each province in Canada. So from my experience, professional development was important to me because I wanted to be the best that I could be every single day, every year that I taught. So professional development opportunities speaks volumes. I just don't know where to find them. And if working with new and beginning teachers is not clear to me, professional development of current teachers, it resonates with me as well. So I'm just not sure where to find them.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that there might be, and we could do a search on this, right? Google is our best friend. Shouts out to them. My wife actually works for them in some capacity. But I'm wondering if there are some conferences or events that happen for teachers within Canada, right? Because the conferences and events are a great stage for you to get on, even if it's not paid right away, because then teachers get to see you, right? And we all know that everyone has their own professional development within their school that they have to go through as well.
Yes. So when I've spent a fair amount of time the last few days looking, and I'm noticing that a lot for 2024, the application deadline has come and gone. Mm-hmm. So now thinking I should be looking at 2025 and getting a good jump on them. And I'm making note of ones that I find that the application date is going to be sometime in the fall. So I'm making a note of those so that I will go back and revisit.
Okay, definitely. And I'm wondering, that's probably within Canada, are schools traditional in the sense of, like, do students only go to school through a certain time? Do they go to school all year round? Like, is it ending because summer is coming? Is that why we're maybe not seeing as many conferences?
I'm thinking yes, that's probably the case. I would say 85 to 90% of schools are September to June.
Okay.
With the other one being a year-round schooling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, definitely. So I think it's a great idea to keep that going with the conferences. Now, the other thing that came to mind when you brought up teachers were, and I only have a few friends here in the States that are actually working K through 12, but I know that there's time before students come back to school where they do professional development and, their own orientations to prepare for the new school year. Do you have any connections with potentially principals or vice principals to start to have some of those conversations?
Yeah, I never thought of that. The school district that I taught in, there's many people that I know who are currently VPs or principals.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's nothing like a warm lead, Patti, right? It's nothing like the people that we already know, because even if they don't have the opportunity, knowing that we want the opportunity, when they're in the room where it happens, they'll think about us, which is so powerful. So that might be some great, like, potential coffee chats that we can go on to explore. And when you're sitting with those folks, I would not just think about, can you pay me to speak? Can I come in to speak? But I would want to hear from them. One, what does professional development look like for teachers throughout the year, in the beginning, in the middle? What type of challenges are they having, and what type of celebrations are they having right now? Like, I know I was talking to a friend recently here in the States, and she was telling me it's just so good to kind of be past the hybrid experience, like to really have students back in the classroom, because she feels that having people here and there was really struggling with the climate and with, the energy of the student. So hearing those things not only will help you to find opportunity, but also where can your offer come in to support them?
Yeah. And that's one of my major themes is, rebounding back from that experience. Being a good teacher is not enough anymore. Kids need more than a good teacher. They need connections. Yeah. And for me, that has been probably one of my strongest points as a former teacher. And I think everything else, when both teacher and student feel valued and heard and appreciated, good things happen, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Then everybody can thrive, right? And feel really good about it. So I think that's a good action step, Patti, to reach out to the local district, the VPs, have a conversation with them and see where that's at. I would really want to know, what do people do at the top of the school year? Because here in the States, folks start, I believe, August, September. Is that the same in Canada as well?
The day after Labor Day for us. So I think it's the 8th of September. Some schools have started to put protees out of their school year and put them at the front of the school year. And so I know that's happening. Yeah.
Okay, good. So we got one strategy for the schools. We have two, right? We have the conferences that you're going to look at for next year, and then we have some warm connections. Now, let's talk a little bit about you building your credibility so that more people see you as the powerhouse for teachers. And I personally think you building up your LinkedIn profile with as many teachers and principals from around the world as possible and continue to share your knowledge could be, maybe that third strategy, because you never know who's going to see you on LinkedIn, who's going to be really excited about your work. And I know you're already starting to add people every day and to get to know them, but really making sure that it's not just the educator or not just the administrator. I think a mixture of both could be really great.
Right. For sure. For sure. Good things happen. I've seen people that I've then said, oh my gosh, you really need to connect with this person because I just see a real fit there. So yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. So we've kind of went through the speaking offer. Any other questions that you had about that I can answer for you? And then we can kind of look at the other offer that you have as well.
So I sent out application for to be a speaker to California Teachers Association, and it asked what city you were in and what your teacher ID number is. And I left them blank, but I still sent in my application. Anybody can apply for any places that have an open call to speakers, correct?
So this is an interesting question. It depends on the industry, right? So recently I applied to speak at a diversity, equity, inclusion conference in Connecticut. It was open as far as on the web, but then I got an email that said that I needed to be affiliated with UConn, University of Connecticut, in order to speak there.
Yes.
And they were very polite about it. They were like, we're just looking for people who are here at the university, which is fine. I didn't know, and it was great. So I say we still go for it unless it's listed there that they don't. And, I gave them that feedback. I said, in the future, in the future, I think you should have it listed on the website that it's only for UConn, community so that other people don't fill out the application. So
yeah, that was the same with TEDx. I sent out so many applications to get back that exact same comment. And then my friendly feedback to them is that should be stated very clearly at the top of the application.
Yeah, exactly. So it just depends on, like I said, the conference, the industry, the summit. I say you still put it in because there's two sides to this conference thing. And for folks who are watching, please, put questions. Me and Patti are just having a coaching session here and we letting y'all in. So y'all kind of like behind the scenes right now. But conferences are great because one, we want to speak there to get more testimonials, more value out. We might find an opportunity. Someone might see us, want to bring us in. But the other thing is more people get to know about our name. So even if people don't necessarily accept you, it's another person that has seen you and your brand. So still turn it in, because even if the conference is only for, you said it was for California, if it's only for California, at least they know who Patti is now.
That's right. With the last name Bevilacqua, that people tend to remember that. So there we go.
Definitely. Great question, though. When did you submit that and when do you think you'll hear back? When's that event?
Right. So it's going to be in the fall and it's called the New Teachers Conference. It was specific to that. And they're having
that. That is right up your alley, Patti. They're
having one in November and again in February. So I asked my application to be accepted, or I was interested in speaking at both. The date for the end is application date is May 30th. And then you would find out at the end of July.
Okay. So we'll know something sooner or later.
Do you usually get information either way, or if you don't get it, you just don't hear? Is that the norm?
Recently, I will say this. When I used to submit probably like 3 to 5 years ago, I didn't always get a response. And that kind of wigged me out, right? Like, did you get it? Did I turn it in? Did I do it correctly? But this year, I've gotten most responses, right? Whether it's been accepted or we've went another direction or we had so many speakers and you weren't selected. I've gotten that. And actually one conference, they were like, we don't think you're a good fit for this, but we're having this other event later on this year. Why don't you apply for this? So people are, to me, a little bit more responsive. And yes. I don't know if it's because technology is a little bit better and we have this way of like mass replying to people. So it makes
Yeah.
it a little bit easier. But I've noticed that I'm getting most of my feedback back.
Okay, good.
I can't think of one conference that I've applied to that hasn't said anything to me. And that's
Right.
really good. And I hadn't even really thought about that, Patti. So that's
Right.
actually pretty amazing.
And then I thought of something. You mentioned summits, conferences, summits, and events.
Mm-hmm.
When you do call for speakers, should that be a keyword as well? Or
you can put, call for speaker, your niche, and then 2024 summits, especially if you're used to speaking at summits or retreats or, there's not a big difference in them, but there's a different audience that goes to it.
Yeah.
A conference could be the same thing, a 3-day event, just like a retreat. But retreat, usually people expect a little bit more intimacy. There might be some time for restoration and rest. There might be more like mindfulness. So if you're used to those different events, then I would put those in as well, just to see what comes up, because everyone doesn't use the word conference, right?
Right. Okay. Everybody who hears and watches this YouTube, you want to hire both Evolve and me because we're awesome dynamic speakers.
You better hire us, right? Like before the price goes up, Patti, before the price goes up, right? But no, this is so cool. I actually seen, you're in the school community, Patti, with me, and they have a larger school community of people who are learning to build school communities, really macro level type of stuff. And I actually seen people interviewing their members in there. And that's why I came up with this idea, because I was like, I think it'll be cool to talk and to do this and it to not be somewhere where people can't see it. So for folks who are watching, right, I think that not only hire us, but take this and use this strategy in your business as well. Like, who are people that you can like interview and get in conversation with, not just to create content, but to get to know more, because this is a relationship and reputation business. The more people you know, me being able to call on Patti, now that I know exactly what you do, Patti, if someone hits me up tomorrow and they're like, we need someone to speak to our new speakers, I know exactly who to go to. But sometimes there's so much going on and so many distractions in the world, you don't really know it.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
But hire us, y'all. Hire us.
and everybody in this community with Evolve, right? We all deserve the opportunity to get our message out there.
Exactly. So remind me, and we got some cool folks here. We got Leticia in the building. Yes. Okay, great. And all right, are there other opportunities she could be applying for? That's a good question. Let's think about that a little bit more, Patti.
Okay.
We've thought about the conferences and summits. We've thought about you reaching out to your warm leads at schools. I'm wondering, one other place that's coming to mind is current students who are in school reaching out to the actual education departments, right? So everyone has to go through training to be a teacher. Who's the one where the test that you all have to take? Like that governing agency might be someone great to reach out to. Where are the actual schools that are teaching people? That might be something else to consider as well, because I'm sure that they not only have events and conferences, but they probably need some support with what you're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's different. Like you said, you want them to almost peel back the curriculum and really get into being their most authentic self. And that might be powerful for them to learn way before they even get in the classroom.
Yes. I did have an interview with the directors of all the teacher education programs in Arizona, and it was amazing. And I know that they are coming to the end, but I will reach out to all of them again, mid-August to book some opportunities to talk to their students in teacher education.
That's a good one too, yeah. Attention public speakers, coaches, and consultants. Ever dreamt of booking 5-figure speaking and consulting contracts? In just 5 days, I'm teaching my tried and tested system to elevate your speaking and consulting business. Forget the cold emails, bypass the salesy pitches. This challenge is about building genuine high-value connections. And here's a promise I have for you. With a commitment of just 1 to 2 hours a day for 5 days, you're going to witness transformative results. On day 1, you'll learn how to craft a business strategy without cold emails or paying to speak. Day 2 is all about you redefining your profile to attract decision makers ready to invest in your expertise. By day 3, you'll have your very own 5-figure sales system to turn contacts into clients. By day 4, we will have you automating your funnel with proven templates and scripts. And day 5, I'm going to teach you how to master the art of discovery calls with a step-by-step checklist and exclusive 5-figure sales secrets. Whether you're just stepping onto the speaking scene or you're a seasoned pro, this challenge is tailor-made for you. I'm going to teach you the exact strategies that have helped me help my clients make over $2 million in the last 2 years. The journey to a thriving 5-figure speaking and consulting business begins with this challenge. So are you ready to redefine your limits, accelerate your growth, and bask in the limelight of your success? I want you to join the 5 days to 5-figure speaking challenge now. Let's rewrite your success story together. Simply head over to speakingforprofit.com. You're going to click that button that says 5 days to 5-figure speaking gigs so you can get started with the challenge. Can't wait to see you there. All right, now back to the show. I think when we're thinking about industries like this one, Patti, it's all based off of time and when the industry is active. So this year, right, since we're in summer, might be a little slower until you pick up in the fall. And then it'll be really important probably in the fall throughout the beginning of next year to put out a lot of your ask so that the rest of the year, right, is abundant as possible.
Right. Yeah, for sure. For sure. The school year, will determine when a lot of this stuff rolls out.
Exactly. And some of those breaks too, right? Some of those breaks will determine that. So you mentioned you have a second offer that you want a second speaking topic. Tell me a little bit more about that, and have you started to think about the industry that you want to speak to?
Yeah. So the talk is based around MS. MS stands for mindset shift. It does not stand for multiple sclerosis. That was my message to the Rotarians is, it's about shifting your mindset and not focusing on what you can't do anymore, but being grateful for what you can and what you have. So, I typed in mindset, call for speakers mindset. And I just kept getting a lot of organizations that you can hire to help you get on these stages, right? And so, I've reached out to the MS Society of Canada and in the different provinces. It's hard to get them to take a look at you because the focus right now is on research.
Yeah.
And some of these people see my side of my illness as fluff. People want more than fluff. And I'm saying, I know you guys are doing the research. I trust that you are. But I know lots of people who need to know from someone who has lived with this for 30 years that, what, my life is great. I have a great life despite living with MS. So it's not just mindset, but that's a huge part of it, right? So I don't know, Evolve, where to look.
Okay. Do you have any experience, Patti, in the health field, or is it primarily as a patient?
Primarily as a patient, yeah.
Okay. So 2 things come to mind. Now, this is kind of exciting because in my past life, I worked at a medical school, right? So I was working with newbie doctors, as I would call them, the baby doctors before they got to residency. So there's a lot of opportunity for patients to speak around patient advocacy. And usually at universities, the medical students will host their own conferences and events, and they bring in patients to talk about their experiences, and they do find money to pay them, right? Because they're like, we don't want to waste these people's time. So I'm wondering what it would be like to connect with like local medical schools to see what conversations that they're having around patient advocacy, but also burnout and fatigue when it comes to navigating the not just hospital, but healthcare system is a conversation that's very important for most people in the medical field. They want to know, how do we make this space more inclusive, more caring, and more loving for our patients, even though this is a corporation and a business. So I know you said you reached out to the MS Society. I think going directly to healthcare, medical schools, educational programs could be a great conversation for you to have. Number one, we know they got the money. I mean, look how much it costs for someone to go to medical school. But number two, they really will value you in your patient experience. Where the MS, like you said, the society, they're just doing research and you already know that. So that's just another side of the work. But you could really be powerful in speaking about not only how they should treat patients, but what are work that they can do to support them with their mindset, especially when it comes to challenges of navigating their diagnosis, but also navigating the healthcare field in general.
Mm-hmm. I had everyone in my audience at the Rotary Convention stand up, and it was May the 4th be with you. And I had a electric Luke Skywalker, and I dubbed everyone Mindset Smart Ambassadors.
Yes.
So that whole advocacy and ambassador, that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think getting you in front of those spaces will be probably just the most effective. And I want you to think about medical schools. I want you to think about hospitals, but also their governing agencies, right? So even here in the US, when I was working at my medical school, which was UCSF in San Francisco, there's the American Medical Association, AMC, and everything as far as curriculum, standards, what they add, what they take out, how they talk about gender, how they talk about race, all of that is included in their guidelines. So I always like to start at the top, Patti. Like, why don't I go there? Because if I can speak there or have a conversation with them, and they have annual conferences, they also have more like caucus conferences, right? Like, okay, for surgeons, for folks who are working in cardiology, but they have these annual events, and there's going to be the people that you want to speak to at those events as well.
That's a great idea. I was not close to that idea at all.
Well, that's what we're here for, Patti, right? We're here to kind of like think about the strategy behind it. Yeah. Because it's important. And folks who are watching, I want y'all to think about this. When we have a topic, the topic is great, but we have to intersect our topics with our actual industries. Because when you think about it, Patti, your talk could be in several industries. Healthcare is great. And the reason I suggested healthcare is because you are kind of talking about the MS, and, you know, like, it's not just MS for that, it's MS for mindset, right? Like, which is different. But you could speak to corporate about this if you wanted to, because there's definitely some mindset shifts that need to happen there. This is definitely could be like a faith-based conversation when you think about it. But for me, it's important for you to feel aligned. And that's why I brought in healthcare, because you brought that up, you know, first. But you could definitely share this talk to multiple different people.
Right. I noticed from my conversations after I spoke to the Rotarians is the power of my story. And my professor at the University of Toronto said, when you're talking to somebody and they look like they're not listening to you, it's because they're thinking of something you said that resonated with them. So that whole narrative part of it, right? That's a whole nother area. You know, universities, PhD programs, a lot of them are getting into qualitative research as opposed to quantitative. And narrative inquiry is becoming very popular. People's stories matter. And when my story may not be identical to yours, but something I said makes you go, that's very interesting, I'm on the right track, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the stories are, right, the data, the numbers are for a different group of people, but the stories are for the majority of people. That's what I always like to say, right? There's a particular group of people that are going to look at the numbers and need to see them because that's just going to make sense in their brain. But that same group of people also can listen to the story and hear the story and be affected. So I definitely think that it's really promising for you. Now, what happens sometimes, Patti, is we have several things we can talk about. And I always share this joke with my clients. It's like having the Cheesecake Factory menu. Do y'all have Cheesecake Factory in Canada?
Oh, yeah.
So you've seen the menu, right? It's about 30 pages. It's too many things, right? It's too many pages. I mean, and half of it's cheesecake. So what we want to do as rich speakers, because that's what we're trying to be, is narrow that down to like a nice French restaurant where it's a very small menu, maybe 3 items on there, but we always know that we can whip up another 32 cheesecakes if we needed to, right? So for you, I would suggest definitely focusing on the teacher side, but also looking into the healthcare, and that's it. I don't want you to spread yourself thin, and I want you to actually know what works. So if we have less data, it's easier for us to look at compared to if we're kind of just throwing paint against a wall, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And thanks for saying that, because I can get on the internet and with a purpose. Well, all of a sudden I'm watching 80s music on YouTube, right? Like,
yeah, my guilty pleasure is The Simpsons. I'll get caught up in automation or animation or cartoons. So I totally resonates with me. But I think those are some good starting points. Now, I know you have messaging that you're sending out to folks, and if you want me to review that, I can. Just feel free to send it to me in the circle. But I know you were having a couple of questions about LinkedIn. Is there anything I could support you with there?
Yeah. So I want to do a shout out to Aubrey Cruz. Her and I have become accountability partners, and really enjoy our conversations face to face and in the community. And everyone else who has been adding to everything that I post or ask has been awesome. And so when you did the LinkedIn previous section where you looked at my profile, Aubrey went through it and brought some things to mind. So can you clarify first, second, and third, please?
First, second, and third. Tell me.
Contacts, first degree or second degree, third degree?
Oh, yes. Yes. So it's the question, what is the difference between those?
Yeah. And why do we need to focus on 1 and 2?
Okay, definitely. So the way LinkedIn is set up is it's based off of our connections. So if you and I are connected and we both know Aubrey, but I'm not connected to Aubrey yet, when I go to send a connection and Aubrey sees that we're connected, she'll be most likely to accept me. But the other thing is sometimes people have it set up where you can't even connect with people if they're too many degrees of connection away. So that's where you'll see like, oh, you need the person's email, or it even will have a little lock on it that says like you can't connect with them. I personally think that it's easier to build relationships with people who already know people you know. Okay. So even like for this conference today, someone who's on the planning board, when I met with them to prepare for it, they were like, do you know this person? I see you all are connected on LinkedIn. And I was like, oh, I know them, but I don't know them very well. We're just LinkedIn connections. But they were like, oh, yeah, that's a really good, a really good friend of mine. So I was happy to see you all were connected. Right. So you see how even on the back end, people are looking to see who do they know that you know. So that's just the way that the process works. And I always suggest first and second, because number one, you're probably going to actually get the connection. When I've seen clients try to add people who are third, fourth, or fifth, usually the person doesn't connect with you, or LinkedIn won't even let you reach out that far.
Okay. I wasn't sure about what that meant. Thank you for clarifying that. Second thing is I've sent a couple of connection requests that have been accepted. This is when I will now say, oh, thanks for accepting my request. Evolve Benton is a mutual connection for us. That's when that message comes out.
You can say that we're a connection, but what I would suggest when we're thinking about our first message is to lead with curiosity and a compliment, right? Remember we talked about that? So your first message could be like, hey, thanks for connecting with me. I see that you're doing a lot to support our young people in the education space. I am as well. I'm wondering, what initiatives does your school have going on this year for teachers that you're really excited about? right? Because then you're really crafting it towards your offer, but you're starting off to build a relationship with them.
Okay. People that you have mentioned in previous training sessions within the school community, when we reach out to connect to one of those people that you mentioned, is it the same method?
If it's someone that I mentioned, tell them I sent you. It's always good. Okay. Right? Because most of the time they know I'm sending some folks their way. And I think it's always good for people to know that I gave them a shout out. So I would love for you to mention it, but you don't have to. Right. But I think it's always a good way to kind of build relationships. I do that a lot. I'll be like, you know what? I was on this training and so mentioned you and I wanted to check out your work.
Right. And then I did ask Cassie, I think her name is, I asked about doing lives on LinkedIn if you needed a special membership or category, and she gave me the link, which has been primo. So I'm going to plan on doing one of those.
Oh, wow. That's really exciting. Yeah. So I think it used to be, Patti, and maybe you've probably seen this on LinkedIn, that everyone couldn't go live at some point. It was like you had to have a certain amount of followers or connections. It was something that they had, but now I believe everyone can do it. And you can go straight live on the platform. But what I love to use, which is what we're using today, is StreamYard. And I think that could be a great space. And the reason I love StreamYard, because a lot of people are like, you just always like talk about it, is because we could do things like this, but I also could bring in a video if I wanted to. I can bring in an image. I could share a screen if we needed to. So it still gives us that Zoom feel, but it doesn't have the Zoom clunkiness, if that makes sense, because Zoom can be a little finicky when it comes to streaming things online.
If you were to give me two priorities for LinkedIn, what would they be?
Great question. First priority, I would say, is adding more connections. It's so powerful to have more people on your profile. A lot of times people will be like, my content's not really hitting. People don't like it. And it's like, there's not enough people there to really a sample size for us to see if things are working. And the second thing is to use it as a speaker, right? So to speak more on the platform, people need to see you. When I look at some of my most engaged content, and I'm not saying the things that have the likes, I'm talking about like people that slide in my DMs or in my message to say, hey, Evolve, great job. A lot of that information comes from me going live more than even sometimes the text posts that I put up. So I would say go live at least once a week. And make sure that you're adding new people and adding new connections. One more as a bonus. You only asked me for two, but, and this is for everyone. I think LinkedIn groups are really powerful and starting to pick up. So if there's some groups in your niche that you want to join and just become like an all-star member, like you've shown up in the circle, that could be a really great space to start building connections as well.
And when going live on LinkedIn, 2 minutes of whatever, there's no set amount of time that I want to focus on. Is that correct?
I always like to think about like going live as like we're creating our own talk show in a way. So I want you to think about what are the 3 segments that you want to have on your show. Right here, we always do wins and updates. So, I shared with folks about the conference today. Then I'll share a little bit about what we're going to actually talk about so that the folks who are interested will stay. The folks who are not, right, can head on out. And then I usually go into the content and I always have a call to action at the end. Okay. And a call to action is simply, what is the next step that you want your audience to take to support you or to support themselves in whatever you're teaching? But think of your segments and make it fun. And it doesn't have to be long. I think the most important thing is that it needs to be consistent. Mm-hmm. So if you say you're going to do it every Wednesday, do it every Wednesday. If you say you're going to do it once a month, do it once a month and make sure that the day is consistent and that your audience knows to show up.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's easy for me, right? Is I would say, I'm going to do 4 a month. And then for the first 2 months it's 4 a month, and then it's 3 a month, and then it's 1 a month, and then it's
so even better than that. If you know that you're that type of person, Patti, tell them it's a season. I have a client right now that I'm working with. I'm helping him launch his podcast, and he's just going to do 8 episodes. Just
Oh,
do 8 episodes and see how it goes. So you could tell people, you know what, for the next 2 months, I'm going to go live every other week. That's 4 episodes, right? And see how it goes. And if it goes great, you could keep it going. If you get to a point where you're like, you know what, this isn't really for me, or you're tired, you can always just say, hey, I tried it out.
yeah. Oh, I really like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I mean, Patti, our TV shows do it to us all the time, right? They give us 10 episodes on Netflix, and then the next thing we know, we got to wait a whole year before we get it again.
I know. I know.
Yeah, but consistency, right? And everyone who's watching this, consistency is really about us more than our audience, but we have to communicate it. And what happens is we get jealous of what other people are doing, but we have to realize we have to do what's best for us.
Right.
Before you're doing it for your audience, somebody who's going to pay you to speak, it has to feel good for you. So I'm really big on trial periods when it comes to new things, when it comes to hiring, when it comes to new speaking opportunities. There's always a trial period, and you can always change your mind and pivot. You just have to communicate it. And that's the power of you being a speaker. You know how to communicate things.
Yes. Yes. If you were going to give me one thing to keep in the back of my mind to try to not do, what would it be?
Doubt yourself.
Okay.
Don't doubt yourself, and don't doubt your intuition, right? There's something really powerful about certainty and knowing who you are and knowing what you want to do, right? So there's so many distractions, Patti, out there in the world. Well, it'll tell you, you know what, speaking isn't it? You need to be an email marketer. You know what, being an email marketer isn't it? You need to start a Etsy shop, right? But you know who you are. You know you're a speaker. Don't doubt that. Keep going. And the momentum will pick up. And next thing you know, you not only will be getting paid, but you'll be on stages that you never even imagined that you would be on.
Right. That's exactly it.
Yeah. Yeah. That distraction. Don't get distracted.
No.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I got time, I think, for probably one more question, and then we're gonna close up. But before you ask it, Patti, I just want to really thank you. You know, when we started the Speaking for Profit Circle, my coach told me, you'll get a rock star person in the group that's going to help you build. And you really have helped us build this community by showing up every day, by being active. Even when new people show up, you know, we'll do a holler and say welcome, but guarantee Patti going to be one of the first one to do it. So I just really am enjoying you being a part of the Speaking for Profit Circle family. And I'm so thankful that we got to meet each other and that we're in community together.
Likewise. And I have to say that the people that I'm meeting in the circle are gravitating towards you for a reason. And so thank you for being your authentic self. I have spent a lot of time on platforms packed with fluff, and you have to kind of find your way. You've made it very easy. So it's a joy to check in every day and see what's happening with everybody.
That's good to hear. Thanks so much, Patti. All right, let's wrap it up. Final question.
All right.
Final round.
Question. Oh, Talkadot. Talkadot Pro version. What are the benefits of Talkadot Pro that I should know about?
Definitely. Great question. And shouts out to Arel Moody, which is the founder of Talkadot. Amazing person. From what I know, I don't have the pro version yet. It's something I plan on investing in later on this year. But I believe you get additional training from it, right? So there is some pro training that they teach you about. You know how on the back end of Talkadot, you can have where it says, Patti was very actionable and all those different things. You can customize what people will rate you at. And you can customize the question that you ask people. That's really powerful depending on what kind of data you're trying to collect.
Right.
The other thing is that eventually, as you get more speaking engagements, I think there's a limit of how many you can have within the space. And once you reach that, you have to upgrade as well.
All right. So who is the founder of it again?
Arel Moody.
Great.
AREL Moodi. And if you've been on Talkadot's Instagram or anywhere. He's the main one, but he also, if you ever get those invites to do the Ask Me Anything trainings, he's the one that hosts those as well.
Okay, so I have a shout out to him that he better get more storage capacity, because all the speakers from your circle platform are going to be taking over.
I'll have to send him that message. It's a really great platform, and I love it so much, right?
I got 98 comments from the weekend.
Wow, 98 testimonials? Yeah. Whoa, that is powerful. Patti, have you shared that on your social media yet, the feedback?
Yeah, I did 2 little snippets. Yeah.
Okay, great. Continue to share with us. Like, even if you want to do a throwback Thursday and throw us back to that opportunity, continue to share. But what I will say is they are always looking for feedback. And when you give it to them, they execute it. So if you're ever in the platform, and this is for everyone watching that's using Talkadot, and you're like, you know what, this would be nice, this would be cool, reach out to them, because they're looking to make it better, and they're really passionate about the user experience, which I appreciate.
They offer some, I'm excited about going to the next step.
Yep, I'm excited as well. Well, Patti, it has been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for being a part of the community. I think that what you have going on is going to be amazing. And I just want to leave us with a few action steps, which is what I usually do right after a coaching call. The first one is, I know that you're going to be reaching out to those educators that you have in your warm community. I think that that's important to make that a priority, because they already know you. Looking into events that are happening at the top of the year for teachers, and then starting to explore what medical institutions, colleges, or conferences that you might want to bring your mindset talk to.
Okay. All right.
How does that sound?
I'm on it.
All right. Well, that's great. Well, folks, thank you so much for being here and watching us go live. Until next week we'll have another training here in the group. If you're not a part of the Speaking for Profit Circle, we would love for you to join and for you to be in the community. If you do join, make sure that you fill out all of the questions, because we're not letting bots into the group. So if you look like a bot or a robot, we won't let you in. So make sure you answer all of the questions, and you at least have a bio and a photo so that we know that you're human. But it's really exciting to witness all of your growth. And until next time, peace.
Bye, everyone.